Imagine being able to detangle, dry, and style with one tool. Just in time for back to school, the Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brushes do it all for frizz-free salon results at home. The pink smoothing brush has 136 Flexolite bristles for painless detangling and 1,000 watts of high-performance power for smooth, shiny results. And the purple large oval dryer brush creates glam waves and comes with a bonus volumizing attachment for added lift and volume at the roots. The all-in-one dryer brushes are perfect for all hair types, with 3 heat settings for customized styling and frizz-fighting technology that leaves hair shiny and manageable. These styling essentials are your prescription for salon results at home. Go to Conair.com to get your Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brush or all-in-one smoothing dryer brush now.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
My dad used to say that.
Sure, yeah. It's from Geico.
Yeah, whenever I would ask my dad for life advice, he'd sit me down and say, son, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. And look at me now, a well-adjusted adult with a drawer full of plastic bags I'll never use.
Okay, I'm confused. Was your dad a licensed Geico agent?
Nah, he was just a real good dad.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. It is the Bill Handel Show. Bill recovering from heart surgery. Morning crew is here. Some of the top stories we're following for you at KFI. LAUSD students returning to classes today, and everybody's going to be wearing a mask, or at least they're supposed to be wearing a mask. Social distancing, and they'll have to undergo weekly coronavirus testing as well, including a baseline test before they can even show up today. So there were long lines at these testing sites in the last few days. And also the death toll from that 7.2 magnitude earthquake in Haiti is up to almost 1,300, at least 5,700 people injured. And Afghanistan is an unmitigated mess right now. The Taliban very quickly took over basically the entire country. They're in Kabul now. They say they want to peacefully negotiate a transfer of power from the putative government of Afghanistan to them, the Taliban. Notice they're not saying we want to peacefully negotiate a power sharing arrangement, or we want to peacefully negotiate maybe dividing up the country, like we'll have part of the country will become our thing, and then the rest of it will leave to the regular civil government. Oh, no. This is them trying to be, I guess, nice guys. Like, look, we're going to take over the whole country, including the capital. We're going to be the government of this country. And hey, we're going to try to be cool about it and not kill all of you. Peaceful negotiation for a transfer of power here means how fast can you get us a set of keys before we start murdering all of you? Okay, that's what's going on in the meantime. We were going to leave our embassy open there. We're not now. They're clearing it out. They're destroying all kinds of documents and computers and what have you. And it's a frantic push to evacuate Americans out of there, as well as various Afghan people who helped our government in our efforts to bring some stability to that country. And if you turn on any news channel, you'll at some point soon enough see a video of these big transport planes taxiing down the runway and all these people running alongside the planes, hoping to jump on board like steamer tramps running next to a train, trying to hop on because they want out of that country. So there's a lot of finger-pointing going on. In fact, in the next segment, ABC News correspondent from Washington, Faith Abube, is going to be here to talk about who's pointing what fingers at who. There's apparently plenty of blame to go around. Nobody wants to take responsibility for this happening. And nobody anticipated that this would happen this quickly with this little resistance from the Afghan army. You know, we were told, hey, there's 300,000 troops in the army of Afghanistan, including elite special forces. Also, they have an air force. So the Taliban can't possibly win. But they forgot something. Or they didn't know it, or they knew it and forgot it, or they knew it and they just like that receipt that you crumple up and you stick it in your pants and you never think about it again until later when you've done your laundry. And you pull your pants out and you go, oh, look at this wad of disgusting paper that was in my pocket. And that is this. This is the fact. The fact is that that country was non-functional. Police officers were not being paid. Towns had no electricity. Even though they had generators, they had an infrastructure in place. It wasn't operating. So here's what the Taliban did. They would show up. Hey, what the hell's going on in this town? You have no power? Well, we can't have power because there's nobody to fix the generator. Well, where's the dude who's supposed to fix the generator? Oh, he's hiding at home from you. They took a quick assessment and said, all we have to do, we don't have to kill tons of people for this. All we have to do is get the power back on and give some of these police officers and soldiers some pocket money. And that's what they did. They would go into a town and say, all right, all you people, you got to go back to work. And if you don't go back to work, then out come the guns and the whatever, the beheadings, whatever we're going to do. So they got people to go back to work. They got power turned on, water restored. And you had police officers and you had lower level army people who hadn't been paid in months. They gave them some walking around money. That's all you got to do for everybody to say, fine, take over. We're fine with it. We have no interest in stopping you. In fact, we are kind of feeling like, and this is the key to why it was so easy for the Taliban to take over. We're kind of feeling like you'll actually be a better government than the supposed official government. The official government didn't govern. The Taliban this time, instead of massive violence, just went in and filled the vacuum of basic governance. There's some other things, too. There's a lot of corruption and stuff that we'll get into later in the show. But right now, that's the main thing. I don't know if our people didn't realize that cops weren't getting paid and soldiers weren't getting paid, and there were communities that had no electricity and all of that, or if they were so arrogant that they knew it, but they didn't think it would be a factor, when I think it turned out to be the single biggest factor in allowing this to happen. Let's get a news update from Jennifer Jones-Lee, and then here on our soil, the political finger-pointing has begun. We'll get Faith Abube on here from ABC News to talk about who's blaming who for what. It's KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Good morning. It's the Bill Handel Show. He is recovering from heart surgery. Wayne Resnick here. Morning crew here. Some of the top stories we're following for you. The death toll from that earthquake in Haiti is up to almost 1,300. At least 5,700 people have been injured. And here in the U.S., having already approved COVID-19 booster shots for the immunocompromised, health officials are considering approving booster shots for the elderly as early as this fall. And in Washington, the blame game has begun. Afghanistan, as you know, is in a shambles. The president has fled the country. The Taliban basically has control of the entire country. We are in a mad dash to get people out of there. And in Washington, politicians are starting to decide whose fault it is. Let's find out what they're saying from ABC News correspondent Faith Abube. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, President Biden is staring down a political disaster right now and what some have called an unmitigated failure, humanitarian catastrophe. I mean, you name it, the words have been used to describe the situation. One Republican congressman even says that Biden has, quote, blood on his hands because of the rapidly devolving situation we're watching here in Afghanistan. The president hasn't spoken out in several days now. He's been at Camp David in what was supposed to be his August holiday, but throughout the weekend he's been receiving intelligence briefings. He's had ongoing meetings with his national security advisors. It's unclear right now exactly when we'll actually hear from the president. We're being told it will be soon and that it will be within the next few days. But he's facing intense pressure right now, backlash for this timeline for withdrawing our troops from Afghanistan. And it's not just from Republicans. It's not just Republicans slamming him. Analysts and lawmakers from both sides of this political aisle are furious right now about what's happening. Members of Congress were debriefed on the situation yesterday. Many of them are speaking out right now. Congressman Vicente Gonzalez wrote on Twitter, he's from Texas, he wrote on Twitter, there's no way to hide it. The situation in Afghanistan is another shame on this administration. Withdrawal was never going to be easy, but it didn't need to come to this. And he's a Democrat who's criticizing the president this way. We've seen several Democrats do the same thing. Republicans are doing the same thing. Lots of questions this morning. The president's critics are wondering, did the U.S. intelligence community get all of this wrong? Or did President Biden not follow their advice? So lots of questions for the White House right now. Just days ago, a U.S. military analysis predicted that Kabul could fall within 90 days, within weeks. What we saw happened essentially over a week, and what's happening right now just in the matter of days. The administration appears to have been caught off guard by the Taliban's rapid advance. Just last month, the president pushed back on the idea that once U.S. troops leave Afghanistan, that the Taliban would take over the country. He said back then that it's unlikely that that would happen, and even said just last week that he doesn't regret his decision for this rapid timeline. The president hasn't spoken, again, publicly. We haven't heard him talk about this topic in about a week right now, but the administration continues to defend itself. There are 3 talking points they're sticking to right now. They were saying that this was inevitable, that it was going to happen, whether American troops left the country yesterday, today, a year from now, 5 or 20 years from now, it was going to happen and that it was inevitable. They're also placing blame on Afghan forces. They say they've spent 20 years, 2 decades, training them, spending billions of dollars, and now they've failed to defend themselves. The president also says that he doesn't want to pass this on to a 5th president, to the war in Afghanistan, the longest war that the U.S. has fought so far. And the president is also blaming Trump's policy. So he says that President Trump tied his hands, and that when President Trump made a deal with the Taliban that the American troops would leave the country by May 31st, that when he came into office, he had no choice but to follow through on that. So we're hearing a lot from the administration, basically this blame game continuing and all these talking points that they're throwing out there. But again, the situation on the ground is dire.
And can you just talk for a minute about Liz Cheney? Seems to be, unlike pointing all the fingers at the Biden administration, she seems to be spreading the blame around a little bit wider.
She is. I mean, she's one of a few Republicans who come out blaming not just President Biden, but also former President Trump. She points out that former President Trump did make that deal with the Taliban. She points out that, Americans were disillusioned about what was actually happening on the ground and that the policies haven't worked, and that the Trump administration, for example, trusted that the Taliban could help control peace in the area, could help with terrorism in the area, tamp down terrorism in the area, and that President Biden also followed through and quickly did this withdrawal without actually, reassessing the situation. So she is pointing blame at both sides of this, not just President Biden, but also former President Trump as well. And we've seen others also point to that. But again, a lot of critics have also pointed out that, President Biden is the one in charge right now. He is the commander in chief. So whether former President Trump had a deal in place or not, that he had a responsibility to reassess what was happening on the ground and make his own decisions, and that it doesn't work for him to just blame former President Donald Trump, and that he's in charge and he needs to take control of the situation.
All right, Faith, thank you so much. Now, you're on social media at Reporter Faith, and I bring it up because I looked at your Instagram. You report on a lot of the major stories that are going on.
We do.
I mean, you specifically are there at a lot of them, so that means they must have a lot of, please forgive me, faith in you to be covering that stuff. I know I'm getting a thumbs down from my producer. I'm getting a thumbs down from everybody. Faith Abube, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Mm-hmm. All right. She's every like if you name the biggest news stories from the last 6 months and you go to her Instagram, there she is at every one of them. It's almost astonishing because usually a reporter can't, right? They can't be at every major story. All right.
I've lost faith in you.
Oh, man. Fine. Coming up, George Michael will be here to discuss what the hell just happened. No. Let's talk a little bit about, this earthquake. This earthquake in Haiti is, of course, devastating, but they have a history of this. And I'm not just talking about the one we remember. Going back centuries, that country has been devastated by earthquakes, and we'll get into why. It's KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith because I got to have faith, baby.
KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. It is the Bill Handel Show. Bill recovering from heart valve replacement surgery. The morning crew is here. And we have to talk about Haiti. Man, oh man, that country cannot catch a break. 7.2 magnitude earthquake happened on Saturday. It's killed almost 1,300 people. Probably about 6,000 at least have been injured. Homes, buildings destroyed. This is a country that still had not fully recovered from previous earthquake and a previous hurricane. And now there's a tropical, I think right at this moment, it's a tropical depression. It was a tropical storm. It's back down a little bit to a tropical depression called Grace. And the problem here is even if it hits as a tropical depression, like if there was a tropical depression headed towards the coast of North Carolina, we'd report on it, but not with breathless, oh my God, what's going to happen? It would be like, oh yeah, they're going to have some rain. It's going to be, you're not going to probably want to go out for a while. The problem here is they already have this devastation from Saturday. So it doesn't take much in the way of wind or rain to make things exponentially worse. And Haiti, the thing with Haiti and earthquakes is they have been going through this problem for literally centuries. Do you know that in the 18th century, Port-au-Prince, that city was destroyed by an earthquake twice in 19 years? Yes. I mean, and imagine the technology back then, or the building, 1751, boom. And another one within 19 years of that. There was another one in 1860. There was the one about, 10 years ago? 11 years ago? In 2010? Now this one. And it's because Haiti is at least as bad as Los Angeles in terms of fault lines and tectonic plates, because there's an island, Hispaniola, right? And it's sort of shared, right? Haiti shares it with the Dominican Republic. So it's right there, basically. And there are these two massive tectonic plates that come together right there. And that's where you're going to get a lot of earthquake action, because you have the tectonic plates of the Earth's crust meeting. So that's a point of friction. And then there's a ton of fault lines going through those plates. And it doesn't just have one kind of fault line. It has every kind of different fault line that you could imagine. So you have some fault lines will cause the plates to smash into each other. Other fault lines there will cause the plates to slide across each other. You ever get a pebble stuck in the track of your window or your sliding door, and you know how it just doesn't want to move? That's what goes on. And it's like they have pebbles in every single track of every single sliding door, except it's tectonic plates and fault lines. You also have a very high population density there. Well, you got 11 million people in not that large of space. So seismically active, densely populated, and they built their buildings for hurricanes. Because that was the bigger concern when they would build buildings is, oh man, we got to hope they stand up to a hurricane. And you know what? They mostly have done a good job. Generally speaking, buildings in Haiti, certainly the modern built buildings in Haiti, do okay in a hurricane. But the way you build a building to stand up to a hurricane makes it even more vulnerable to an earthquake. Right? Because if you have, like you say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build a building out of concrete and cinder blocks. And then the hurricane's going to come through and the building's just going to go, I barely feel you. But those are exactly the kinds of buildings that just collapse when the ground starts shaking. And that's assuming everything is built perfectly. And like anywhere, like we saw in Florida, in those condo towers, sometimes things aren't built 100% up to snuff. So that is why they're so vulnerable to earthquakes over there. And you say, well, why don't they just start retrofitting for earthquakes, and when they build new buildings, make them earthquake resistant? Well, they don't have a really good centralized governmental oversight for making that happen. So we'll continue to watch, because the death toll will probably go up and the number injured, and they're going to need so much help. Here's the deal. On Friday, you very well could have said about Haiti, that's a country that still needs a lot of help because of what they've been through already years before. And then Saturday came. Let's get a news update from Jennifer Jones-Lee. And then, oh boy, Homeland Security really wants to look at your Instagram. Oh, yes, they do. And some people don't want them to. It's KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app.
Take a chance with my love. Say, can you handle my love? Then close your eyes.
KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeart Radio app. It is the Bill Handel Show. He is recovering from heart valve replacement surgery. Morning crew is here. And Jennifer Jones-Lee, I understand the situation at the airport in Afghanistan and Kabul has turned deadly.
Yeah, we've heard from a senior U.S. military official now who says 7 people died in the chaos at the airport in Kabul. You've been seeing all the pictures of that big transport plane trying to take off. There were people hanging off of the side of the plane. They were just grabbing onto it anywhere they could. We understand of the 7 people who died at the airport, some of them did fall from that American military transport jet.
Because it's completely out of control, which is why now American forces have taken control of that airport. And you know what they're doing? A couple of things. One, they're putting up blockades around the airport to try to slow the influx of people who are rushing to the airport to try to get out of the country. And you know what else they're doing? At the airport, they're firing into the air to try to stop people from rushing out onto the tarmac. That's when you know you have a situation that's completely out of control. I'm not blaming them. I'm not criticizing it or blaming them. I'm saying that's how frenzied it is, that people are just rushing out, dangerous, as we know, because people have died. So there they are, in the air to try to just keep them back.
I know they said that some people fell and we saw them clinging to the side of the plane. I was surprised that they didn't get run over.
Well, that's
they
another
were
concern.
Dangerously close to the wheels of this.
Yeah, well, that's why they wanted to stop rushing out there. I mean, they've had to like massively clamp down on the whole thing. How many people are getting to the airport at a time? Once they're there, what are they doing?
And it'll
get more orderly. I bet you by the end of the day we'll hear about it's more orderly. And the Americans who were there are being told, don't even come over here,
right,
until you get an email saying there's a spot for you on a plane that is leaving soon. Then you can come over here. Hey, Homeland Security wants to look at your Instagram and, I don't know, your WhatsApp, maybe your Telegram, your encrypted Telegram channel, but they can't do it all by themselves. So they are considering hiring outside companies to analyze social media. This is at this point, this is something they're just pondering. There's been no approval for this. There's been no funding for it. But it is the result of what they believe was a failure of intelligence before the January 6th situation at the Capitol. And they would prefer not to have something like that happen again. And they've decided that all these social media channels are an excellent source of kind of meta chatter. I'm going to call it meta chatter, where you can identify trends in terms of what people are talking about. It doesn't look like they're going to focus with laser precision on this guy or that guy. And in fact, you know, people talk about, oh, it's Big Brother in this country, it's a surveillance state and all of that. But you know what? We have a lot more protections in this country than in most countries about when and how the government can access even things that are nominally public, like your social media feeds. Do you know that the FBI, before they can go digging through like your Google history and all of this stuff, they have to get a warrant. Go see what they have to do in China if they want to take a look at your Google history. Like, who do they have to ask? Nobody. Well, in any event, so what would happen here is they would hire some outside companies, and there are outside companies whose business is sucking in mass amounts of social media data and then running it through AI and looking for trends. One company is called Logically. Logically, I love corporate speak. You want to know what they do according to corporate speak? They use artificial intelligence and human analysts to monitor online content at scale, seeking trends around misinformation. So they look for trends in fake stuff that's being said. So I guess the way this would work, if it happens, is these companies would get big, fat government contracts. They would suck up all of this information. It would be vague. It would sort of be generalized and anonymized. And then they would report to Homeland Security trends that would give Homeland Security the ability to anticipate and maybe plan for large-scale disruptions like we saw on January 6th. Most privacy experts seem to not be into this happening right now. All right. There's a big difference, too. I mean, I think legally and morally and everything, there's a big difference between somebody just pulling up your public Instagram and looking and a company going into joining an encrypted chat channel in order to monitor what's going on. In fact, the government is pretty limited in when they can do something like that, but the private sector, not so much, which is probably one of the reasons why they want to bring in the private sector, because the private sector will have a lot more leeway. Let's get a news update from Jennifer Jones-Lee, and then what is it going to take for you to come work here? Oh, man, I want to tell you about a restaurant up north, like what they have done to try to stay in business because they can't get enough employees. It's KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Imagine being able to detangle, dry, and style with one tool. Just in time for back to school, the Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brushes do it all for frizz-free salon results at home. The pink smoothing brush has 136 Flexolite bristles for painless detangling and 1,000 watts of high-performance power for smooth, shiny results. And the purple large oval dryer brush creates glam waves and comes with a bonus volumizing attachment for added lift and volume at the roots. The all-in-one dryer brushes are perfect for all hair types with 3 heat settings for customized styling and frizz-fighting technology that leaves hair shiny and manageable. These styling essentials are your prescription for salon results at home. Go to Conair.com to get your Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brush or all-in-one smoothing dryer brush now.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
My dad used to say that.
Sure, yeah. It's from Geico.
Yeah, whenever I would ask my dad for life advice, he'd sit me down and say, son, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. And look at me now, a well-adjusted adult with a drawer full of plastic bags I'll never use.
Okay, I'm confused. Was your dad a licensed Geico agent?
Nah, he was just a real good dad.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.